hello from sunny Middlebury. It is currently 3:03 p.m., not a.m. And after a long day spent with Bill figuring out what the heck was going on with Arc Pro yesterday and why things just weren't working for us, I think we got it figured out. So I'm going to sort of Jeff style walk you through a workflow that's going to get you through the rest of the things that we couldn't get through yesterday, especially editing that impervious surfaces layer to match your year. So let's get started. The first issue that we realized was the basic problem is that we were trying to work from our W drive in Arc Pro. So what we need to do is move the files that we were using in our W drive just to the C drive, the local drive on the computer that you're working on. So how we're going to do that is by going into your File Explorer down here, and then going into this PC, and then open your GIS home folder. You should find your Geog 310 folder that you created, and then in there should be this lab 1. And what we're going to do is just drag it right over out of there into the documents folder and wait for it to go. That just copies it out of your W drive off the server and onto the computer that you're actually working on. And then you can go into that documents folder, double click on lab 1, and then there's the Arc Pro project file. And we're just going to open that right up from the documents folder. Wait for that to load. And there we go. This should have everything we need and everything we had in our old project. And it should just come right in. Your catalog now should be moved. So your home folder now, where your GDB is going to be right on your C drive. And you can actually see that where I just pulled it up there. You can see the location now says C users, and then that means that it's not going to be working from the server, which should make Arc Pro run quite a bit faster. So the first thing we need to do is go into Project up here in the upper left and go into Licensing. And then we're going to go and hit Configure your licensing options. And I already have mine set up on here. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that 3D Analyst doesn't really matter, but we need to make sure that Image Analyst has a checkbox next to it and that Spatial Analyst has a checkbox to it. And this is just going to allow us to access the tools that we need for this portion of the workflow. So you hit OK, head back into your project. So the next thing we need to do is pull in a file, which is the raster. Bill and I rasterized the version of the impervious surfaces layer, and that's going to allow us to just edit it much easier instead of having to deal with all of these vector editing tools. And it's just going to simplify this whole process and allow us to do it faster. So I'm going to remove the old one that I have on here just so I can go back through the process. So to get to it, you got to go to Catalog and then find your connection to the Middlebury folder. And if you don't remember where that is, I'll just go back through it here. We can go Add Folder Connection, and then backslash, splash, haha, Splinter Data, and wait for it to load. It'll take a second because Arc, for some reason, has a really hard time accessing network data. Wait for it. I suppose I could pause the video, but I think that would take a little extra time. Okay, there we go. And then go into Vermont, Towns, Middlebury, and you can just add that Middlebury folder and click OK. I'm going to hit cancel because I already have it in there. But okay, so now open up that Middlebury folder. In land cover, there should be a few new things in here that we haven't seen before. There's an impervious geodatabase and then an impervious raster.lyrx. What I want you guys to do is just drag that impervious raster.lyrx into your scene. And then it'll take a minute, and the reason that it's a layer file is because it then just includes the symbology that I created. So you're going to just see now, we can zoom in here, see that this is now, if we go in pretty far, you can see it's now a raster. It's not a vector anymore, and it has two classes. It has porous, which it has no symbol right now, so you can see right through it. And then it has impervious, which is this orange here, and I set it to 50% transparency. So once we've got that in, we need to figure out how to clip that to the zone that each of you is working in. So let's start by going back to our catalog here. Come on, catalog pane. And then we're going to go into the administrative section of the Middlebury folder on Splinter and get that zones final layer that Bill made yesterday that has the spatial reference information in it that we need. Gosh, I don't know why ArcPro is so slow with server data. Once that loads, okay, there we go. So Middlebury zones fin. Drag it in. And once I zoom out, okay, now you can see our 6 zones. You're gonna have to remember which zone you guys had. So I hope you remember which zone you were. And what we need to do right now is we need to select the zone that you're working in and then export that data to the local GDB. So I'll show you how to do that. So first thing we're going to do is make sure you're in the map panel up here, hit select, and then in your zones, select that. And then you'll just have one of those zones. Just make sure you select your zone. Make sure that's selected. And then we're going to right click on Middlebury zones fin, go down to data. Come on. Export features. And then over here in the geoprocessing panel. Okay, input features, Middlebury zones, that's good. Output location, lab01.gdb, that's where you are. And you can see in that little panel that just dropped down, it is in our C drive. We want to make sure that's where it's at. And then let's just make a new name. So it doesn't really matter, but you can just say, so I selected zone 1, so I'm just going to call this guy zone 1. And it's just, I don't need to give it any like file extension or anything. I can just leave it like that. And I don't think I have to do anything else. I can just hit run. Should go real quick. Cool. So now I believe if I remove Middlebury zones final, I just have my one zone that I just exported. Cool. So now the next step, we are going to clip our rasterized version of the impervious surfaces layer, which is conveniently called imp-ras2 over here. The layer X file brought in the original raster file, so even though it was called like impervious.lyrx, when it comes in to ArcPro, it still has the name of the original file. But we're just going to clip that imp-ras2 by the zone 1 and make a new raster in your local geodatabase. So to do that, we're going to go up to geoprocessing, back out here, and then we're going to go clip raster. Okay, that very first one, clip raster, cuts out a portion of a raster dataset. That is exactly what we want. Input raster, imp-ras2, and then output extent. This is the key. We're going to set it to zone 1, that new shapefile that we just created. That's just the zone that we want. Cool. And the last thing you need to do is click on this little folder to browse, and it should pull up. In here you can see that it's at our C drive, and it's the right lab 1. So we're not in our W drive anymore. We're still in our C drive. So hop into the geodatabase. This is going to be a new raster. So I'd like you guys to call this one with a sort of a specific name so that Bill and I can access each of yours at the end of this and compile it all into a data set. So let's name it imp underscore, and then whichever zone you're working in. So right now I'm going to name mine Z1, and then underscore, and then whichever year you are specifically working in. So I'm working with 62, as you can see over here on the left. So I'm going to go underscore 62. So imp underscore Z, whatever zone you're in, underscore 62, or 42 or 94, whatever year you're working with. Hit save. Looks like we're all good over here. You don't need to worry about environment settings, and you're just going to hit run. This should go pretty quick, but just in case, I'm going to pause the video and see you in a moment. All right, I think we are good. So let's remove that zone 1 because we don't really need it anymore. And then, okay, look at this. Nice. We have our new layer showing up with just our zone. So let's get rid of the old one. That's the full file. Get rid of that. And now we just are looking at our section. And what's going to make this a little easier to work with is if we change the symbology of it a little and make the porous surfaces have no color so that it just sees right through. And then we can give the impervious surfaces a little bit of transparency. So I'm going to click on that. And then in symbology over on the right-hand side, I'm now going to go here. This is for porous. I'm going to click it and then hit no color. And then that updates nicely. Cool. And then impervious, I'm going to click on that and then hit color properties. Change our transparency to 50%. Hit OK. Now we've got this nice semi-transparent layer that's a raster, and it's overlaid with whatever imagery we're working with. I'm going to stop there on this video and start again in a moment for the next section. So see you in a bit.